Venezuela has accused United States of America of aggression now. Venezuela has sought urgent UN action. It has called upon international communities to speak up on what's happening in Venezuela. It has also requested for a United Nations Security Council session to address what it calls excesses of the United States of America. This is after the strikes that US launched in Venezuela, the capital of Venezuela. Venezuela, that is under attack now. It has witnessed a lot of explosions since today morning, has accused US of aggression. US President Donald Trump has admitted to striking Venezuela. He has said that US forces have already captured the president of Venezuela and also his wife. They are being flown out of the country is what he has said. Now, Venezuela has sought urgent UN action. It has sought the intervention of the United Nations. It has sought an emergency session of the Security Council at the United Nations. Venezuela has accused US of aggression now. Venezuela has sought urgent action by the United Nations. Now it has also sought the intervention of international communities, citing what it calls aggression excesses by the US forces. It has also requested for an emergency session of the Security Council at United Nations. As US launched an attack on Venezuela, at least 7 explosions have been reported in several areas of the country. Residents said that loud blasts have been heard just minutes apart. Let's show you some defining images of these explosions. US has admitted to launching strikes in Venezuela. US Air Force carried out strikes on an army base in Venezuela, is what we understand. In these visuals, as you can see, there's a missile attack that was launched by the US Air Force. There's another image of the visuals of smoke seen rising over parts of Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela, following multiple explosions due to strikes by US Air Force. The videos and visuals there showing dark smoke across the country. Venezuela emergency services have not yet issued a public advisory, but there is deployment across the country, is what we understand. Colombian president, meanwhile, has shared a video of the US attack on Venezuela. The video shows the extent of US attack and also the aftermath, the consequences of what really happened. Remember that there are many unanswered questions there. We're not really sure of the number of casualties and deaths that have taken place and also the kind of damage that have been inflicted in military establishments. But this video shared by the Colombian president also gives us an idea of the damage that could have been a fallout of the strikes by US on Venezuela. We are joined by Nick Harper from Washington, D.C. We are also joined by Andrina Furman, who joins us from the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Andrina, to you first. Explain to us what really happened. I'm sure the country must be in a state of panic. What really happened? Tell us a little bit about the explosions that many of us could have heard.
Well, the situation in the country is on edge. Everyone is looking for staying at home because of in the middle of the night we hear the strikes and the U.S. airplanes around the capital and several bombs that appear to attack all the base areas, all the military areas in the capital. At the moment, the people is at home waiting to hear more information because the national security forces are taking the streets and are asking all the people in Venezuela to stay at home and to stay calm and to remain in their homes at the moment.
Right. Nick Harper, Did you expect this thing to happen? Because tensions between US and Venezuela have escalated dramatically after, what happened on the 2nd of September. During Christmas, we did see President Trump admitting to this first, what seems to be a land strike in a dock site. And after that, we did see this interview by the president of Venezuela saying that he's ready to speak to the United States of America. What really happened today, and how do you see this having a fallout on the larger question of stability in this part of this world?
Yeah, certainly this was not expected. We have seen months of threats from the US president, a pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro and his government. But this targeted attack, not just against Caracas, but three other locations around the country, that was not anticipated. We've seen airstrikes against alleged drug smuggling boats. We've seen the seizure of 2 Venezuela-linked oil tankers earlier in December. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump also saying that a strike had been carried out, that reported CIA attack. But this coordinated, planned attack from the United States and the physical removal of the head of government, this was not anticipated. And in terms of what comes next, well, it's unclear exactly what the US strategy for Venezuela is. It's unlikely that we would see US boots on the ground, but perhaps cannot be ruled out. There could be more military action, although Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, in a phone call with another lawmaker on Capitol Hill, seemed to suggest that now Maduro had been captured, there would not be any more military action from the United States. But much of this remains unclear, including exactly where the Venezuelan president is. Speculation that he is heading here to the United States to stand trial, but that in itself has not yet been confirmed.
Right. Andrina, I was told that Caracas is a valley, so the impact of the explosions was much more than one could have expected. What is the larger sense of anxiety amongst people in Venezuela? Is there a sense of fear that there could be sustained military engagement, there could be more military attacks? What are people in the country feeling right now?
At the moment, the people is looking for water, supplies, and batteries because we had suffering power outage frequently here in Venezuela. So they are taking measures in case that we have failure in the main servers in the country. And at the moment, the military are on the streets, taking care of the streets and asking the people to remain calm until the situation is more clear for them and expecting more instruction from the military. The Venezuelan vice president is asking the US President Donald Trump for a proof of life of President Maduro because they don't know the whereabouts of the president. And the Venezuelan people is on edge because we didn't sleep anything at night because of the explosion and the panic and all the situation that has happened in the middle of the night. And we didn't expect this because this situation has been for months. But at the moment, we didn't expect that this happened in the middle of the night like it happened last night.
Right. Andrina, also tell us the extent of damage that these explosions could have caused, because we're not really sure of the number of deaths, casualties, or the kind of destruction in military establishments. Can you give us an idea of the kind of damage that has happened in the capital of Venezuela?
At the moment, the Venezuelan vice president didn't confirm casualties or people injured. But we have here that the bombs attacked the main bases in Venezuela and main ports like La Guaira port, that is the main port in Venezuela, and there have been several damage in the infrastructure. So we don't know the casualties yet, but we will wait for hear more from the authorities soon on this to know the number of casualties or injury in the coming hours.
Right. Also, what can be expected politically, because there is an expectation that the vice president could take over, but then he's also not seen as, he's not been recognized by the US. Okay, we will try connecting with Andrina in just a bit. Mr. Harper, to you now, explain to us what can be the diplomatic fallout of something like this, because this, like you rightly said, was not expected immediately, but US President saying that this has been, in the works for a long time. There's been a lot of planning that's gone into this. He's called this a brilliant attack. How do you see US taking this forward?
That's right. In terms of the diplomatic fallout, I think it heads in two directions, domestically and internationally. Domestically, the US president would normally need to seek congressional approval before carrying out any military action. That did not take place in this instance, and we've already seen lawmakers, including some from within Donald Trump's own Republican Party, questioning why the US president felt he had the right to go ahead without approval from Congress. But then there's also the potential for international diplomatic fallout. Of course, as you mentioned a few moments ago, we've already seen various other countries allied to Venezuela calling out the US action, saying that it violates international law, that it violates the UN Charter, calling for an emergency meeting of the Security Council at the United Nations in New York. But we're also seeing countries aligned with the United States calling for restraint, including the European Union. They have just put out a statement in which they have said that they also, like the United States, did not feel that Nicolas Maduro was a legitimate government. Both of them accuse the Venezuelan president of rigging the last couple of elections so that he could stay in power. But the European Union also urging restraint, essentially saying to the United States, you've carried out this action, but we do not want to see any more. So there is this potential that even US allies will be watching what has taken place and questioning the authority of the US president when he had that legal right to do so, because this is really an unprecedented move, carrying out not just military action, but carrying out the removal of a sitting president of another country.
Right. Mr. Harper, there have been, comparisons made with what happened in 1989 with the president of Panama, because this extraction of the president and his wife without the possible use of conventional ground forces and possibly with the use of something like a factor like Delta Force, that's also being debated at least on online platforms now. Is this something that we have seen before, the extraction of the president of Venezuela by US forces and being flown out of this country?
I mean, it is a very dramatic move that was not expected by the United States. There were questions about what the US endgame in all of this was. After months of this pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro, what was the US seeking? Was it looking for him to step down? Was it looking for him to engage in talks? Something that Maduro said in the last couple of days he was willing to do, extending that olive branch to Washington, saying that he would engage in talks on how to combat drug trafficking coming out of Venezuela, but also looking at the possibility of giving US companies access to those vast oil reserves that Venezuela has. But really, was the United States looking to pressure him out of power or capture him? And the capturing of him was something that was not expected. It was not something that was discussed here openly in the United States. There were even questions as to whether regime change was something that Donald Trump was aiming for. Publicly, he said it was not the case. Privately, some close to him, including his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, had said that that was part of the plan to get that regime change. But undoubtedly, this move was a surprise move, not expected, a very coordinated attack by the United States.
Right. And Mr. Harper, how do you look at the Colombian president's statement on social media that his country's forces have also been deployed to the border with Venezuela and that there could be additional support if there is a massive influx of refugees, because we're talking about regional stability here? What kind of humanitarian problems do you anticipate now in terms of refugee flows and also the larger question of peace and stability in this part of this world? Because this is after a long time that the US is directly intervening in Latin America.
Yes, I mean, it's not surprising that the Colombian president has come out in support. In terms of the humanitarian crisis, that has been unfolding for years. Venezuela has seen an outflowing of millions of refugees, really one of the largest refugee crises anywhere in the world. But there is the possibility that that may now escalate further with more refugees leaving the country. The Colombians say that they are standing by, but I guess it also comes down to other regional countries and partners within the Latin America area, whether they are ready to also help and support any other refugees who may want to try and leave Venezuela.
Right. Mr. Harper, also, help our viewers understand the personality and politics of somebody like Nicolas, the President Maduro, because he's seen as a socialist leader, but he's also a very authoritarian person, and he's been ruling this country since 2013. There have been disputes about elections as well. Help us understand what kind of problems have Donald Trump and Venezuela faced. For Venezuela, already struggling with economic collapse, with political instability, this is yet another crisis, because this also means more uncertainty that could deepen fears of further disruption and, like Mr. Harper was pointing out, even a humanitarian fallout. We have also seen statements coming from the Vice President of Venezuela demanding for proof of life from the US President, who has claimed that the President of Venezuela has been flown out of America and has been captured. With that, it's time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side.